Welcome, viewers. Today we uncovered the dark truth hiding behind the endless chaos of the Middle East. Most people look at the Middle East and see only random religious conflicts burning out of control. But in deep geopolitics, this violence is not a random accident. It is a calculated machine. This is Iran's ultimate strategic master plan, a vast shadow network called the Axis of Resistance. How exactly does this shadow ring of fire operate? And why does it terrify the Western world? Let us look closely at the modern map. From the mountains of Lebanon down to the strip of Gaza, we see Hezbollah standing in the north, while Hamas tightly controls the dense coastal territories. Moving further south, the Houthi rebels command the crucial choke points of the vital Red Sea waters. Meanwhile, numerous hidden militia groups operate across the ruined landscapes of Iraq and Syria. To the untrained eye, these scattered battlefields seem entirely disconnected from one another. Western media often paints them as isolated uprisings, fueled by ancient religious hatred. According to intelligence reports, this widespread narrative is a dangerous misconception. Behind closed doors in Tehran, a brilliant strategic mind sits quietly, moving these pieces like a chess game. This unseen architect views the Middle East not as broken nations, but as a unified battleground. They have spent decades carefully weaving this complex web of alliances across sovereign borders. The Axis of Resistance was never designed to be a traditional standing national army. Instead, it functions as a decentralized shadow force, operating outside the normal rules of war. By hiding in plain sight, these proxy groups create a massive shield of plausible deniability. If a proxy militia launches a devastating strike, Tehran can simply deny direct involvement. This allows the central leadership to project immense regional power without facing consequences. But what truly drove Iran to construct such an elaborate and dangerous proxy network? To understand their motivation, we must turn back the clock and examine their deep geopolitical fears. For decades, the Iranian government has felt surrounded by highly hostile foreign powers. Powerful Arab nations formed strong coalitions, creating a diplomatic wall around Tehran. Furthermore, the crushing weight of Western economic sanctions severely crippled their defense budget. They simply could not afford to buy huge fleets of advanced stealth fighters or modern heavy armored tanks. In a conventional military conflict, they knew they would be destroyed by superior weapons. Both Israel and the United States possessed overwhelming air superiority and precision. Facing this bleak reality, Iranian commanders realized they had to change their whole approach. They adopted a revolutionary doctrine, deciding to export their radical beliefs abroad. If they could not build a massive army at home, they would quietly fund and train loyal fighters overseas. Billions of dollars began flowing through dark financial channels to arm these distant rebel groups. Slowly but surely, they forged an unbreakable ring of fire, tightening the noose around their enemies. Deep within secret underground bunkers, a new generation of fierce guerrillas began training. Iranian military advisors secretly crossed borders to teach advanced combat tactics. They smuggled heavily modified assault rifles, dangerous explosives, and deadly missiles into war zones. The once poorly equipped rebels quickly transformed into highly organized, lethal combat units. In Lebanon, Hezbollah grew from a small faction into a massive, heavily armed political force. Down in Gaza, Hamas constructed an incredibly complex maze of subterranean combat tunnels. Meanwhile, in the dusty deserts of Yemen, the Houthi movement secured an endless supply of lethal drones. Each faction operated independently, but they all answered to the same grand architect. This geographic placement forced Israel to constantly defend itself from every single direction. Western soldiers stationed at remote desert outposts found themselves surrounded by invisible, deadly threats. Every shadow, every civilian building, and rocky hill could potentially hide a deadly bomb. The sheer psychological toll of this unpredictable proxy warfare began to exhaust the West. Intelligence agencies struggled desperately to track the continuous flow of these illicit weapons. For Iran, this was the perfect execution of an incredibly cheap yet effective bleeding strategy. They were draining the resources and morale of their strongest rivals without losing their own precious men. Military historians note that this system resembles the brilliant tactics of the Persian Empire. By empowering local vassals, the empire maintained vast control without stretching its core military. Today, the axis of resistance serves that exact purpose, creating a massive, layered defense buffer. It pushes the devastating reality of warfare far away from the peaceful streets of Tehran. But what happens when the tension reaches a boiling point and the plan is put to the ultimate test? This brings us to the terrifying core concept of the whole operation: asymmetric deterrence. The true genius of the Ring of Fire is not just its offense, but its massive defensive retaliation. It is a giant, explosive tripwire designed to prevent a large-scale invasion of Iranian soil. If an enemy nation ever decided to launch a direct bombing campaign against the central leaders, the response from the shadow network would be immediate, overwhelming, and completely devastating. Hezbollah could instantly rain down thousands of precision rockets onto the dense city of Tel Aviv. Iraqi militias would also launch deadly kamikaze drone strikes against vulnerable US bases. And the Houthis would completely block all global shipping traffic passing through the crucial Red Sea corridor. This massive retaliation is a dark nightmare for any Western military general to defeat. Even with advanced shields like the Iron Dome, no nation can stop every incoming deadly missile. The sheer volume of cheap, mass-produced drones would easily saturate and defeat advanced defense radars. Down in the dark bunkers, focused proxy operators sit ready, fingers resting on the red launch buttons. They monitor flashing green screens, patiently waiting for the encrypted order to unleash total hell. Back in the command center, the Iranian mastermind watches the missile trajectories with deep pride. He knows that the threat alone is usually enough to keep the world's most powerful militaries at bay. This creates a dangerous paradox, where the weaker nation holds the stronger nations completely hostage. It is a masterful, high-stakes game of geopolitical chess, played entirely with other people's blood. Every time violence flares up in Gaza or Lebanon, it is a localized test of this shadow system. The masterminds observe how their enemies react, constantly adjusting their hidden tactical algorithms. They calculate the exact threshold of violence needed to cause pain without triggering a total regional war. Intelligence experts warn that this delicate balancing act is extremely fragile and highly unpredictable. Managing multiple armed radical factions across different borders is a logistical nightmare. Not every local commander perfectly obeys the strict, calculated orders coming from the capital. Some factions possess their own extreme religious agendas, driven by deep-seated, uncontrollable rage. A rogue commander might decide to launch a devastating preemptive strike to satisfy a local blood feud. Or a poorly targeted drone might accidentally kill a foreign official, sparking massive global outrage. In this volatile zone, one tiny miscalculation could easily ignite a fatal chain reaction. The axis of resistance, while being strategically brilliant, is a ticking geopolitical time bomb. By handing over advanced ballistic weapons to non-state actors, the Central Command has surrendered control. They have successfully built a massive, impenetrable fortress, but filled its foundation with pure dynamite. And they have handed the matches to dozens of deeply angry and highly unpredictable local fighters. The ordinary citizens of the Middle East are the ones who ultimately pay the horrifying price. They find themselves trapped under the crumbling rubble of cities destroyed by proxy wars they did not even start. Exhausted civilians wander through the dark, shattered streets, clutching their ruined belongings in pure despair. They look up at the smoke-filled skies, wondering when this endless, deeply cynical game of power will end. As the geopolitical tectonic plates continue to shift, the entire world watches this region with fear. The terrifying brilliance of the Axis lies in its power to paralyze the world's greatest superpowers. It proves that in the modern era, you do not need a massive army to project overwhelming global fear. You only need a well-funded, heavily armed network of loyal ghosts willing to die for a distant cause. But this dark strategy also guarantees that true, lasting peace in the region remains an impossibility. As long as the Ring of Fire exists, the constant looming threat of a sudden, catastrophic war will remain. The mastermind may believe he is fully controlling the flames, but fire has a tendency to spread wildly. Eventually, the blazing inferno of proxy war might burn its way back to the heart of its own creator. The line between a brilliant defense shield and a reckless gamble for global dominance is extremely thin. Western intelligence agencies are now forced to rapidly adapt to counter this decentralized monster. They are pouring billions into developing entirely new classes of advanced deterrent technologies. The next great conflict will not be fought with soldiers, but with silent algorithms and invisible digital weapons. To survive this hidden threat, Western nations must rapidly reshape their military strategies. They deploy powerful laser systems built to melt hostile drones completely out of the evening sky. Elite cyber units constantly hunt for weak points hidden deep inside the shadow network. Artificial intelligence algorithms now track financial transfers across borders in real time. Striking the weapon supply lines only cuts the tentacles, leaving the dangerous head fully intact. Yet a direct military strike on Tehran would instantly trigger an apocalyptic response. And so, the vicious cycle of shadow warfare continues to escalate across the ruined landscape. We've officially entered a dark era of permanent tension and massive asymmetric conflict. Massive standing armies and heavy tanks are rapidly becoming obsolete in this modern conflict. The real battles are now fought secretly in the shadows by highly dedicated rebel militias. This master plan stretches far beyond the borders of the Middle East, threatening global markets. When maritime choke points are suddenly squeezed, international supply chains completely collapse. One simple drone strike on an oil facility can trigger massive economic panic across the globe. While military historians might praise the pure strategic genius behind this vast operation, global leaders view it as a reckless machine designed to burn the entire world to the ground. How are Western powers preparing to dismantle this incredibly complex and deadly shadow web? Welcome to the dangerous new age of technological deterrence and the endless proxy wars. This proxy matrix is a strategic masterclass, yet it remains a highly volatile global time bomb. Is this network a brilliant defensive shield or a reckless gamble for dominance? Tell us below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more global insights.